Hi, my name is Tim Kroll. I am a customer success engineer for Zenphi. Today we are talking about quote generation using a pre-built template. First thing you're going to do is go into create a new workspace. Once in there, you will see our pre-built templates. This one, go ahead and select quote generation and use template. Once in there, you're going to click the use this template and you'll see that a configure connections box appears. Give your space a name, and then you need to configure your connections. You can use existing connections. If you do not have existing connections, then you will click the plus sign to create new connections. Those connections either be private or public, depending if you're sharing out this workflow or not. Then you want to go ahead and authorize your connections and click allow to your Google account. That'll connect the Zenphi workflows to your Google account. Last thing is choose a file location in your Google Drive structure to store the data that's contained in this workflow. Once you have all that done, go ahead and click use this template, and it will go ahead and it will build out the workflows for you. All right, you can see that it did create the workflow. This flow uses a Zenphi form as a trigger. A Zenphi form is very similar to a Google form, except it has more functionality as it allows you to pull in information from your workflow. There are also a couple Zenphi tables that it writes to. Zenphi tables are very similar to a Google Sheet with more functionality. Let's go ahead and go into the workflow. Once we're in the workflow, you want to make sure you give it a name, so a unique name. Click on Edit Flow. So there are a lot of actions within this flow. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. This is just a high level to show you how our pre-built templates work. This is a standard quote generator. So most businesses would use this. You just need to configure it to your environment. So make sure you look at the actions and configure them to be applicable to your situation. Very first thing you want to do is go into the trigger and configure the trigger. In the form builder section, you go ahead and click on the token. The token will open up the Zenphi form. When you open up the Zenphi form, you'll see that it is already pre-configured. You're going to want to modify it to your liking and to the questions that you wish to ask for your quoting process. You'll notice that inside in the Zenphi form there is tokens that you can choose. Once you select those tokens, it will bring you back to some of the data, the metadata that you can pull in from the workflow, bring you back to your workflow. Once you're in your workflow, you see that there's an invocation tab. On that invocation tab is the URL for the Zenphi form. One thing to note is in this template, you'll see that there is a area that's dotted. There's a dotted lined area. In that sandbox is what we call a lock section. So the very top is a lock action. So what happens is when the workflow hits that section, it will run all the actions in that section. If somebody else submits a workflow while that is running, it will wait until the first one is done before initiating the second one so that you don't have duplicate quote IDs. We have a good mix of actions in this workflow. For deeper dives into how these actions work, you're going to want to go over to docs.zenphi.com, and that is our knowledge repository, and you will see that we have deeper dive information on how each of these actions is configured and how to configure them for your workflows. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and run this workflow, and I'm going to use a previous run so that we can see the actions take place. If we didn't use the test run, you wouldn't be able to watch the actions live. So it's kicked off the workflow, and it's going to step from the top to the bottom. Remember that Zenphi flows are kicked off by a trigger, and then all the actions go from the top to the bottom. So if you need data that's data, make sure it's higher in the flow. Go ahead and go into the generate document using a template action. And once you open that and you click on the template file ID, anything that's in double curly brackets is generic information that will be taken in will be getting data from within the workflow so that it will customize this template for each quote that you generate.